Welcome to another episode of Commentator Kaku, and today I do not have a lot of time to blabber about, so let's get straight to the point. So JEE Mains is supposed to be held on the first week of September. While I am shooting this video, there were 69,000 cases which were recorded on 19th August. And just for the perspective, our exams were stopped at a time when we had 1,000 cases daily. So we stopped exam at 1000 cases and we are planning to have exam when we have 69 times the amount of cases. And I don't find the cases dropping pretty soon because states like West Bengal are now pushing their limits. West Bengal recently, I think, had the highest daily spike in a day. And also, this pushes up the national tally. And being from Kolkata, I generally feel afraid. Also, in my area, there's not a lot of COVID cases, but some of my friends have their entire colony filled with COVID positive cases, so the fear is understandable. Oh yes, and that number also includes leaving out the asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic cases. And apparently, our Supreme Court also thinks it's not necessary to postpone JEE and NEET. And such a thing recently happened in our country. We have another instance in Karnataka, where the Karnataka High Court decided not to postpone their state exam Comment K and said that the standard operating procedures would be followed. Well, just for information, the standard operating procedures which were followed in Comment K turned out more of a Comment D. Now, just before you start crying out fake, let me tell you that this is a fairly natural thing to occur outside examination centers' gates, because some students consider it apparently extremely important to bring their entire joint families to give the exam along with them. Now see, the problem exists. You cannot deny that, and that's not going to change. Now, if this problem continues to exist, there is no way you can follow SOPs. Now, if you cannot follow SOPs at a state level exam, how are you even expecting to follow it in a national scale? Now, the point which I am trying to stress over here is that Karnataka High Court decided to go on with the exam, and you know what happened after that. And similarly, in this case, Supreme Court decided to go on with the exam. I guess you understand what I am hinting at. Now let me bring you to another point of mine step by step. Now see, there exists a technique called as Schlerin imaging. Now what this technique does is that it allows you to map the airflow in a system by using the properties of different refractive index of air at different temperatures. The different refractive index would cause the light to bend differently, and which would cause some really cool images. Now in this footage you can see the airflow when a person is wearing a mask on. You can clearly see that some air is leaking from this side, which you might have also felt. Now many people who wear masks must have also felt that their spectacles get fogged up. Now, have you ever wondered why this gets fogged up? Now, the very reason why this gets fogged up is the very reason why masks work. Now see, virus is a nanoparticle, and that is really smaller than the pores of the mask. Then why do masks even work? The reason is that the virus does not exist alone, it exists inside a droplet. Now these droplets are much greater than the pore size of the mask, which means the mask can block these droplets, and hence the spread of the virus gets blocked. And hence you feel that huge humidity inside your mask. Now see, once this air gets an opportunity to escape from the point above your nose, that air carries with it the droplets which it has, and this causes the spectacles to fog up. Now the dangerous thing is not that your spectacle is fogging up, the dangerous thing is that it is carrying the droplets along with it. The same droplets which are containing the virus and which it was supposed to prevent from escaping. So you see that the mask, it's not 100% prevention to the spread of virus, and also that the mask also allows the virus to be spreading out from the point above your nose. Now see, this wouldn't be as big a problem in case we had people moderately densely spaced and everyone was wearing masks. But news channels have repeatedly shown us that we simply do not want to wear masks. A lot of people still do not wear masks. A lot of people, even if they wear masks, they hang it on their chin, which makes it again useless. Now see, if these kind of conditions continue, along with the huge crowd which occurs in front of the gates of examination centers, considering the leaking which I talked about, the masks are almost rendered useless. And Gujarat Parents Association, you need to do a bit of study before making this video. Okay? See, the main problem in this regard is not inside the exam hall, it's outside it, at the gates. Now see, if a student brings 2 parents with him or her, the tally for NEET automatically goes up to 48 lakhs from 16 lakh. You are dealing with something which is as big as half a crore, and in case of JEE it's around 30 lakhs. So it is quite natural that you won't be able to follow SOPs over there, and yet Supreme Court of India decided to go on with what NTA said, that they would be following SOPs. And yes, you can't even control that situation even if you deploy the entire Kolkata police force at the gates of TCS. It's uncontrollable. I'm just curious, how happy would the state government be in helping a private company backed by the central government in doing its job? Another problem which needs to be thought of is the logistics. Now see, our public transport is operating at much below its capacity, and I don't think that 10 lakh people in case of JEE and 16 lakh in case of NEET have the capability to send their students to the examination center using private mode of transport. That's really costly and cannot be afforded by a lot of people in our country. Buses have been cut to 1/3 of their value, while trains have almost ceased operating, other than a few special trains which are provided and which are 4-coached instead of the general 9-coached or 12-coach trains. Now you can understand the huge cut in supply which has occurred, and the sudden huge rise in demand which is going to occur in the dates of the exams. Now just to put this thing in perspective, a friend of mine has to travel 100 kilometers to go to his exam center. Now with this semi-parallelized transport system which we have currently, the only option which he has to get a sure shot way of travel so that he reaches the exam center in time is private transport. Now he is privileged enough to go 100 kilometers by a private car, hire a private car, go 100 kilometers up and down. But everyone is not that privileged, and that's the point. Most of the people who would be attending this exam come from, most is wrong, a lot of the people who attend this exam would be coming from lower economical backgrounds, which means they won't be able to afford this kind of a situation. So how are we going to arrange the logistics for them? And I don't think it's even possible to arrange the transport system for 10 lakh students in case of JEE and 16 lakh in case of NEET merely on demand if it does not operate initially. Also, we must consider that during this time of pandemic, many people have lost their jobs, and that also makes this point of not being able to transport yourself using private transport even more significant. Now let us think a bit about the students who are from states like Bihar and Assam. These states have been right now ravaged by floods and they are recovering from it. Some students still live in situations where they can't even live properly, and you're expecting them to give exams. Also, the problem does not lie with the students, it lies with the much older family members of the students who are much prone to die from the virus. Now at this point, I think it's really important to understand how the virus spreads, and also just take a look at where the medical system of our country is currently. See, the virus is currently spreading by the pre-symptomatic cases and the asymptomatic cases. The cases which are identified as positive, that is the active cases, are not spreading because once they are identified, they are either put into hospitals or quarantine centers. If this examination is taken, what it would mean is that our medical system, which is right now on the brink, would collapse completely. Thus, patients would be sitting outside hospital and not getting treatment, which would mean that the active cases right now would also be spreading the virus now, in addition with the pre-symptomatic and asymptomatic cases which we already talked about. So yeah, you can understand what will follow then. Now another thing which would happen due to such a situation is that the people who are supposed to be getting treated by using ventilators and all will now not be able to get treated due to the huge shortage in ventilators. and this will arise due to the huge demand which will suddenly start, and so you can understand that the death rate would also increase. Now if you still do not believe that such a thing can happen, then let me tell you that 97,000 students in America have tested positive after the schools were opened. Come on, there's a reason why we are taught history. You do not repeat the mistakes. What you do is learn from it. And yes, if anyone from the government is watching right now, then let me remind you that everyone who is writing this year's JEE and NEET would be of the voting age by the next general elections. So do watch your steps a bit, because I can guarantee that if you are taking the exams, you would be facing an unimaginable backlash due to the huge rise in COVID cases, which you would definitely not be able to handle. So at least fear a bit for your votes, huh? Well then, what should we do? Postpone the exams indefinitely? The pandemic could span years. Well, I would say postpone it indefinitely for now. The situation doesn't seem to be getting well too soon. And then announce the dates 3 months prior to the time when you are able to take the exams, at least when you have a daily caseload of around 1,000 or 2,000, only then can you afford to even think of taking an exam. Well, that practically involves bringing in a 0 year. Well, then what about the huge monetary loss, taking into consideration that academic seasons would not be there, also that you would also lose 1 year of trained labor. What about that? Well, I have a solution for it. You are not going to have a 0 year. The first thing you should do is make the first year courses online. You can use whatever platform which you want, YouTube or even your own website, basically an area where you can bring in advertiser and sponsors and recover your monetary loss. Now professors who would anyways be teaching had this pandemic not occurred would now be teaching online. But it doesn't end here. You have an added advantage of teaching huge number of students at the same time. So yeah, you reduce the manpower required, and that's an added advantage. Now what you should do is take NEET 2020's exam to NEET 2021 and introduce an added paper for the things taught in first year, and an overall score of the general NEET question which you take and the first year score, add it up to find the overall rank. Now this rank would incorporate the student directly into the second year. Now the fees of these students from second year to fifth year would be increased a bit to counteract the monetary losses from the first year. And also a small amount of revision of the first year in the second year would do good to neutralize the drawbacks of the online classes. And for NEET 2021 batch, NEET and JEE, for JEE 2021 also, NEET and JEE are going to happen just as it had happened always. Now in this method we are dealing away with a lot of problems at the same time. First problem arising from the huge pressure if time is crumbled. Second problem arising if the gap in recruitment of skilled labor arises. And the third problem is we are also clearing the economic backlogs which can happen. So I can challenge that you cannot find a better method than this which would suffice all conditions and at the same time not risking public health to a huge margin. Now this reason provides the final nail in the coffin why should JEE and NEET be postponed, and we should not risk the public health to such a huge extent. And I shall not cover the general reasons which are already covered in other YouTube videos. You can check them even if you feel like. So these were my scientific points which I kept in front of you, and hence NEET and JEE should be postponed. Liking or disliking this video is entirely upon you, but please consider sharing this video with your friends and make this viral. You can understand what it takes to balance studies with making a video and collecting such a huge amount of outside information. So yeah, thank you for sticking with me and I hope you will share it. And as always, keep commenting.